So let's see. We're having a second go at this Facebook Live. It's really hilarious. I have invited Rachel. Um, let's see what happens with this one. Rachel is invited, or my camera. Hilarious. Let's see what happens, Rach. Do I get you? Oh, God. I did invite you. So my beautiful Facebook Live is, there you go. Slowly. Exciting to see if I get her on and all of this. I was like, it's so funny. I've done a lot of Facebook Lives, but lately I haven't done it with other people. So I was like, is there anything I need to upgrade or update on my camera or on my phone? Oh, yay!
It was so funny because I was like, I'm here.
I see you too, but my phone was like, no, she cannot be added to the camera. I'm like, why can't she be added to the camera? Why are you being so annoying? So I don't know why, but definitely interesting. No, look what we have. You're also black and white. That is hilarious. For all you guys watching, you might think
there's a dress code for prosperity consciousness.
black and white. Oh my God. This is hilarious because I had a very colorful thing on and I was like, oh, I should go and change. And I don't know why. And then I go, oh, I have a white Spanish jacket. I should put this one on. Is this too much? No, this looks really good.
Beautiful.
And then I see you also. It's black and white.
I'm getting all hot.
I'm
getting like really hot.
Oh, I love this. This is fun.
Like really hot.
Ooh. We like that, Rachel.
we love that. We love that. You know, I just gotta say something. Tonight we're doing a Facebook Live on a deal and deliver called The Two Bowmans have coming up on Tuesday night, and I suppose the Facebook Live really is the two of us stepping up and saying, you know, these two people have given us the tools to shift the lie of lack from our lives and be present in business and create what I didn't even know was possible. And I'm going to totally hog the space. So I forgot all about this. We go back a long time.
Yes, we do.
And would you believe when you asked me to do the Facebook Live, I remembered just before, when I was in the shower, just before I was getting ready to come on, I remembered I rang you about 5 years ago. And I was driving in the motorway in Cork and I had 3 kids and I had very little income. And I was crying, like sobbing, like, and I said, Lisen, I have no clue what to do about my money situation. Do you remember?
Yeah. And it was also with your house, like there was mortgage or things like that going on.
There was arrears. Yeah, there was arrears. The house had been threatened to be repossessed.
Yes,
all of this.
Because I remember walking in the park with Sinja. I so remember where I was walking when you start mentioning. I was like, was I walking there? It's funny when I relate to conversations, I often see where I am. I don't know why, but I was like, oh, that's when I walked. It must be in that park. In that conversation, we talked about that, and that. I'm like, that is so weird. Yes, I do remember that conversation. It was quite a tough one. You had a lot of things going on that wasn't working at all for you.
Yeah, my husband at the time had got sick. He couldn't work anymore. He had a disease. I was like struggling to create my business, trying to look after 3 children. And honest to God, I am so grateful that I remembered this tonight, because I remember I left a message and you rang me back within 2 minutes. And it was like your voice was the voice of sanity in all the craziness, in all the fear. In all the fear, in all the lack, in all the old patterns, in all the old programs. That felt so real, you know. And so I suppose the message that I would like to send out to anyone watching us tonight is that we have shifted our whole reality
Okay.
with the tools and processes. And our journey both began with you recommending me to read Prosperity Consciousness, and then a friend of mine, Graham, giving me the book a couple of weeks
Mm,
later, came to stay with
mm.
me. So that stuff, we can't make that stuff up. That
No,
actually,
that's true. He's crying here.
and yeah, that
Yeah.
is, I mean, here am I, 40 years of age, not being able
Mm,
to, like, really looking at how I'm going to pay my kids food, how am I going to pay my mortgage, what's next. And the phone call from you that day, you know, please reach out to someone if you're in that place where you
mm,
have been twisted into scarcity and lack, and ask consciousness to have your back. Because for me, remembering that tonight, I was like, oh my goodness. And
mm.
then the fact that the two of us are here 5 years later having this conversation. So I'm so grateful for you, my love. Absolutely
Mm.
so grateful for you in my life. And wow, the irony. You never know what's going to show up.
No, no, you don't. But I really can only emphasize what you said as well. Reach out to somebody because
Yeah,
often your world is twisted. I mean, there's things that the facts that aren't working, but what I've seen when it comes to money, there's always a way out. There's always a way for the change to occur. But when you're in it, it is humongous. So you won't
yeah,
see beyond that in that moment. And that's where I see the the gift of somebody contributing to you that has a different situation at that moment, looks at the situation and has some knowledge as well about money and changes. Because there
yeah,
can be people that pamper you, great. You need maybe those too, but there's other people that will show you a way to deal with your shit. It's not like it's gonna disappear from one day to another, but I have not
no,
seen somebody that they're willing to go to. There's practical things. There is maybe more work to be done. You might need a double job, I don't know, or extra job, I don't know what it is. And often it's also sorting out things with banks, like doing practical things. I had one recently where I was going through their credit cards, and she really had so many credit cards, and she wasn't paying them off well. And I'm like, hey, there's really a way to prioritize this so you get out debt. Because I was asking her about how much expenses she had, and she gave me a humongous number. I was like, are you that expensive? I feel really cheap now. And I was like, that's usually not the case. So just from that energy, it's like something's wrong, or
yeah.
something's off. And then I started basically breaking it down. What are the facts? What are your minimum costs? What are the costs you have to live on? What are your debts? And
You
she was
are brilliant at this. I'm
I
just
love
gonna,
it.
you are brilliant. Like, if you'd have taught me 5 years ago that I would become brilliant at this, I would
Yeah.
have said, Listen, no way. I would have said, Listen, no way. What are you talking about? I am never going to get out of this situation. I have no clue what to do next. And I
Mm.
remember you saying to me, Vicky has just said, Rachel, well, what did you do
Oh
that
yeah.
night?
Oh yeah.
Lisen said to me, she said, how much are you working right now outside of, I was doing a few classes, a few
Yeah.
clients, and I said, not much at all. I am so dependent on what shows up week to week. And then you said to me, didn't you say you were trained in Pilates and you were a personal trainer? And I had a point of view that I didn't want to go back doing that work. So
Yeah.
you were like, hey, you know what? What if you did find something like that? Well, the following day, I went home that night and I rang every Pilates studio. It was a new thing at the time. I rang the following day, I had an interview, got the job, and started teaching 10 classes a week, which got me €350, just so that people, what creates a change. That €350, by my commitment to having money, actually changed my influx of clients, changed everything. And I had that every week, no matter what else. And that looked after the basics, you know what I mean? And isn't it funny how one choice,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and the other thing, then I had to sit down and I had to make a list of how much it did cost to live, you
Yeah.
know, because I hadn't a clue. If I had money in my wallet, it was going out. So I just think, yeah,
And that's the tip. That is in that situation where you're basically broke or don't have money, or and you're super stressed. That's basically what happens all the time for people. I just need a little money, and then I'm going to pay for food or whatever that is, and the scarcity doesn't change then. But you did the job, you did the work that was required.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I suppose it's incredible. The thing that I cannot sit here tonight and say
Mm,
these tools are incredible. They work. They
yeah.
absolutely work when you're willing to actually. A friend of mine says action is the final step in attraction.
Mm,
Michelle McDonald in Australia, and it's true when you take that step, it's
mm,
like everything shifts. Everything is
yeah.
like, oh, you're actually going to actually get present in your life and be alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I was
cool.
reading yesterday in the Prosperity Conscious book about the difference about the willingness to change or to create change or to whatever in your life and the actual doing it. Because a lot of people say, yes, I'm willing to do that. But then actually doing it, most people end up not. So the physical change in this world doesn't happen, but you're in your head saying, yes, I'm willing to, or yes, I'll do that, or whatever. But then actually, this world also requires you to do things. And when you do them, that's where, for me personally, it's when I see the universe co-creating with me in the most amazing ways. But I have to be willing to do shit. And when they do, it almost like gifts me 10 times more. And I'm like, this is fucking cool. This is so
And
awesome.
I think that's where we kind of get a little bit lost, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff out there in, let's say, the metaphysical world. I've done a lot of
Mm,
that stuff is ask the
yeah.
angels and the money will come, or Archangel Michael. Like, like if this has got creative for you, please say it. I have had money show up in the weirdest, most wonderful
Me too.
ways.
Me too.
I haven't, however, up until date, had Archangel Michael fly down and deliver me a gold bar. However, Archangel Michael, I am totally, totally, totally open to receiving that possibility. I really
Should
am.
I open my porch or what? The door?
Yeah,
Like, does that
yeah.
help? Sorry.
So it's like there is this action required, and a lot of the times it's a
Yeah.
lot more ease than what we. The thing about this, which is the tricky part, which is you have to kind of train me to this a little bit, or a lot, was that what seems the most difficult thing becomes the thing that is actually a capacity in you to create something different, and we reject that the most, which is so weird.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
true. And if people would hear that now, say whatever you really resist is usually where you're gonna have so much change.
I
And sometimes
know.
you just have to get over whatever thing you have against doing it. Like sometimes, follow where it's light. Yeah, but some things aren't light. You just have to do them anyway. And they become so light afterwards. And I was like, if I always listen to if it's light or not, I use a tool when I ask questions if something is light or heavy to show me an awareness, to show me information, to give me more information. But I never use it against my creations. So if something's heavy, and I know, oh, that's an area I usually have points of views about, I still go and do things.
I'm
Because
so glad. I'm so glad you're having this conversation. The amount of people that go, that's heavy, and they leave it as a judgment. For
yeah,
me, it's like, was it light when I went off to study finance for 2 years? No, it wasn't.
no,
Okay, was it? It was not light. I would be absolutely lying to you. Was it light when I got aware of tax rates? Was it light when I got aware of how to do spreadsheets? Was it light when I became aware of how the Irish system works? Was it light when I became aware of the costs of running workshops, of traveling? You know, no, it's super light. Of course it is, because now I can actually do it and have a capacity.
yeah,
So I see, just be aware of this, folks. One thing I'll ask is this heavy, or have I got stuck points of views in regard to this
yeah,
action or this subject? And usually we have a lot of, the Bowmans call it a paradigm, and a paradigm means like a verb of entrainment. And a
mm,
lot of the times this scarcity entrainment, which kind of leads on to the call, deal, and deliver, in that you can never come to the place which the Bowmans are going to talk about on Tuesday night of deal and deliver if you have scarcity and lack in your universe. Because I will never be able to create with Lisen Bengtsson from the place of, hey, Lisen, we'd like to create this. This is what I would like delivered. Now, what is it that you can deliver, and what are you willing to deliver here? I can never have that, what we'll call conscious communication or prosperity conversation, if down here is the little man, is the little old and trained devil, you know. There's never enough. There's never enough. What I have to get from Lisa, what she has to give to me. Da 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 da. So really, I would say the scarcity and the lack mindset has to be addressed. If you are going to step into conscious creation with possibilities and relationships that actually work.
And if I can add to that, because if I look at deals in general, and you address the lack, because when lack isn't there, you're going to try to defend so you don't have less. And if you know the
Did you hear that, guys? She just said something brilliant there. If the lack is there, you are going to defend so you don't have less. And I've done this. Hand up, I've done this. Listen, guys, you know, don't be thinking there's like, so I just think I'm going to say it again. I think it's probably one of the most brilliant things you said. If there is lack, you will defend so you do not have less. That's brilliant. Anywhere that
it creates less.
It does. Absolutely.
Sorry, I stopped you.
Yeah. No, it's just that defense so that you so you don't have less. The underlying point of view in that anyway is that I'm not going to get enough.
Yeah. Yes.
Always.
Well, I then have a point of view that I always am the one that was losing, so I'm trying to not lose. And literally just coming from that point of view or lack energy, I will also project something at somebody else. But it doesn't matter what that other person chooses, because I'm already with a point of view that I don't know if somebody else is going to do something against me, or I already just expect it to be happening. So there's a lot of weird, twisted things. When I worked more with Gary and also with Stephen Tutissa, they started doing benevolent capitalism classes. And I was at the first one. It was great. And, you know, it started shifting things in my universe. The second one, that's when it started clicking. And I had gone through, I think it was 2 years between the classes or something like that, or 3, can't remember. But started shifting things in the way I was doing business. But at the second benevolent capitalism, I started getting it really from in me, what it meant to create greater for everybody involved. And it was so odd and off, because I wouldn't say nobody does it, but very few do it. So you feel
very
like
few.
It's so weird to do it. You're like, am I doing something wrong here? Looking at the greater for everybody. This is, and it's kept in. It's so funny because that energy keeps being in my life when I look at things. So I was just a stupid random little example was taking a cab or Uber from Houston, my hotel, to the airport, and I was on Uber, and there were so many different Ubers. I first had to Google what they all mean because I didn't understand them. I knew the cheapest was the cheapest, no? But then I was tired, XL, and then there was
all the different
select and blah, and black I knew, but there were so many in between. So it didn't matter. The cheapest was, say, $30, and the next XL I didn't need a van, so the next one was around 70, and then 90, and then 100, blah blah blah. And I was just like, which one do I choose? Well, I don't need an expensive car. And then I was going to do the cheap one, and it just didn't work. And I was like, why is it weird to click on that? So then I started just asking, hey, what would it create to choose the next one? And I was like, poof. And I was like, huh? Really? That's going to create greater in my life, choosing the one more. Oh, wow. Okay, I can do that. So it was so funny, just about to press, and it's weird. There's light and there's a little odd. So I was just playing with dots like on my phone. I was like, this is different energies. So then I clicked on the second one. It was more expensive. It was like kind of like what they have Cadillacs, whatever it was, no? And I was like, oh yeah, it does feel light. And it was just, there was no rational thinking. there was two things that happened. Is that director of the hotel came along when I was leaving. I'm sure he knew that I was leaving because we had an amazing conversation when I arrived. He brought my bags to the room and we kept on talking. And then I asked him if they have venues. And basically, I started opening a possibility of a deal for access to have classes at that hotel. And he was super happy. He's like, yeah, when we know what deals you guys have, let's see if we can create a better deal for you guys. I'm like, I love making deals. So I'm like,
you love making deals.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And then when I was in the cab talking to the cab driver, it was really nice. And he doesn't do so many drives because he hasn't done other business. He says, I'm really happy that I got to drive you to the airport because I have a drive back. So this makes me drive two ways. And I was like, oh, that's the greater, where everything comes together to something greater. So there were certain things where I'm like, this choice just created these energies. I'm like, oh, I like that energy. And I felt great for paying more, contributing him driving to the airport with me. I'm like, I got to a very different place. And I was playing with that. I mean, it's so interesting that created a lot of joy for me. Before it would be, why should I pay him to drive? And he makes more money. And I was like, no, I'm happier. He also makes more money. I'm like, this is weird. And that's become such a joy, contributing with money to create more.
This is the place where it's so funny because this was one of the things that I was made wrong for a lot in my life, the generosity of spirit. Oh, Rachel, you'll never make money, they used to say to me, because you give away your ass. That's a saying in Ireland. Yeah, Rachel, you never make money because you give away your ass, you know. And so I used to just always have the joy and the space. As I got older, though, the entrained, that point of view started to fall away in my dealings with money. Not in, if you came in, you said you were looking for something, I'd give it to you instantly or contribute. But with the money, it started to twist and change. And the one thing that I would say to you is that it takes a phenomenal amount of courage to live from benevolent capitalism.
It does.
It takes, because everything in this planet is actually trained against that. Not nature, but the actual functioning of, like, if we look at the universe,
everything
is changed. I want to pay the least possible amount, which I got to. And I want to pay the least possible amount, whereas actually paying, the willingness to pay for something is such a gift, and it's something that I'm demanding more and more and more and more of in my life, and more and more and more. And that moment, go on.
Sorry. No, I get go. I was there when Tutisa interviewed David Kubis about the restoration of the castle. So they did an interview to basically gonna be able to follow all the steps, both in the castle in Italy and in Lugar, how benevolent the choices were and what they created, where they had no clue where they asked questions. And it was a 2-day interview. And I was there and I was like, and David, coming from his lawyer and a very different perspective, was trying to do some things that are right and then not, and Gary showing different ways. But it always ended up being looking at this choice. But if we were doing a renovation at a castle restoration, basically, their methods of restoring were more from the modern viewpoint. And then some of them, like they were doing under the cellars, they wanted to do air so it can ventilate, so it doesn't get some mold and blah blah blah. It's still going to be quite humid, but it depends what it creates with that. And they wanted to do plastic things to create the air flow. And he was like, how long will that hold up? Like, 50 years or something like that. He was like, that's not okay. So how do we do it in castles? Like, so the company had to basically do researches, or everybody together, to find a different solution. And now they're doing it with bricks and still letting the air go through. That we did in castles before.
Yeah.
Our time at castles, Rachel.
Our time in that castle, you know. I remember them well. I remember the red wine we drank.
Oh God, it was so delicious. And by being in that conversation, I have been looking at apartments here in Sweden to invest in something, to have one home here. And it's so interesting. I come into almost 9 out of 10, it's flats apartments, have been renovated for sale. Almost everyone. And it is cheaper material, quicker
Yeah,
done, really bad
yeah,
finishes. And I'm
yeah.
not good at, I've never renovated an apartment, but I can see it. And especially with the whole energy of, oh, how long have they with this choice? How long will this be really in good shape? I mean, in Sweden we often have really good wood floors that are wood, but no, we put in some new click wood shitty things that won't last many years looking good. And yes, it's cheap when you start, but it's not cheap in the long way. And I was like, oh my God, it has changed me also what I will be looking at. And the funny part, the whole in this last month, I've been only looking at buying antiques and old things that are 200-300 years old. If they have lasted 200-300 years old and they're in good shape today, and I keep on putting good
Looking
polish
after them,
on, hmm it's
taking
very
care of them.
interesting how many 100 years will they still last, because they're built to last. Nobody knew how many 100 years. Until there's a fire, they can still survive and other things, but they can live for a long time. And that's where I'm like, I want to have that in my life everywhere. So I've started looking at that everywhere in my life. And I was like, this is so different because it has created something different for me too. And I was like, this benevolent capitalism thing is so different than I thought it is.
It really is. And the other thing in this is that it is such a joy to allow other people to profit from you being in the world.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really is like, and it's the part that's been really interesting for me is that when people work with me and when they begin to profit and their life begins to get greater, isn't it funny how when I'm willing to contribute, that when my receiving goes
Yes.
expands exponentially, you know what I mean? And that's one of the things. It doesn't fit into this reality. It will never be rational. And oh my God, what else is possible? You know, what
I have
else
some
is
parts in my
possible?
business where I'm like, I would love to have people creating that because they can make so much money out of me. I was like, I just don't have time, but you can make lots of money.
I'll make
Use
money off
me.
you. I will
Use
use you.
me.
I will use you. Okay, she's going to make me money. And that's something for us actually. These conversations that we have, this is quite normal conversation for us. You know,
Yes, it is. Yeah.
yeah, like these aren't pretend conversations for a late Facebook Live.
No.
Like Lisa would always said, use me. But what she means by that is today when we made scrambled egg, we used a whisk because the whisk is the best way to get your eggs fluffy if you're going to cook
Mm-hmm.
them, you know? So that's the same thing. If someone knows how to do a job well and it produces something beautiful and tasty, for what reason wouldn't you use their awareness and what they know so that you can become greater? And I
Yeah.
suppose that's what I love about the Bowmans. Here we have two amazing people that have created multi-million-dollar businesses, and that
Yes.
we get access to them for a deal and deliver call to assist us in creating our business. What is it? Is it $75?
65
Tuesday night.
euros. Euros. They put it on euros.
65 euro, 65 euros. I mean, come on, come on. Yeah, yeah. It's just I
I
mean,
know.
I'm
But it's
like,
so funny because
what?
a lot of people, especially the people that working in areas that we're working with, they think, okay, I've learned to say what people are supposed to do, and I tell them what I'll pay for it. And I was like, that's not a lot of a deal and deliver, but yes, those are the minimal facts of a deal and deliver. Yes, you have to voice what you expect or desire of them, and yes, you have to voice what you will pay for them, and they say yes or no to that or whatever. But that's just like this portion of a deal and deliver, this little thing.
Totally,
And a
totally.
lot of people don't get it. And I was like, now I've been working with the Bowmans over a year now, I think. I was like, I can't even grasp how much
Jeez, I
time.
thought it was like 5 years. I was like, is that not 5 years?
No, because I started working with them like for half a year where they had one or two classes. That's kind of 3-4 years ago, I think, or 5. You might be totally correct, that I don't know. But then they didn't do more things. So we were just in contact, and of
Yeah,
course
yeah,
we
yeah,
did things,
yeah.
but I didn't work with them in that way as I've been doing now. But I've got to see them choose how to work with people and what questions they ask. And it's really intriguing how they come to a deal and also how they come to the amounts they would love to pay people. And they are so willing to look that it creates something more for you. And I was like, that's so different. And I was like,
I
and they don't,
yeah, I haven't
yeah,
seen
that's fun. Mm.
I haven't seen anyone do it the way they do it, I have to say. If there are
Yeah.
other people out there, I haven't seen the energy that they're being, and I'm like a wondrous child, just completely mesmerized with how they
Yeah.
create.
Yeah.
Like, honest to God, when I'm around them, you know the way we say about what gives you joy,
Yes.
what brings happiness. When I'm around them, I'm like, oh my goodness me, this is my world. This is how they're functioning. You know, how can I
Yes.
step into that conscious leadership? And it's phenomenal. I'd love to read a piece from
Yes.
Prosperity
Please do
Consciousness.
that. I'm
Okay,
going to read
so
from this
guys,
book.
yeah, this is my old book. I haven't worked on it at all.
No, it
every
doesn't work.
every every page is no. Oh, and the other thing is, I actually keep one part of it in my wallet. This part I
Oh,
keep in
really?
my wallet. Yeah,
What is
look
that?
at this. So basically, this goes through. These are a list of questions for practical processes for creating a shift in the scarcity mindset. So anytime that there's a scarcity mindset in my world, I have these little questions. I fold it, and it goes in here in my
Wow.
wallet.
You are really choosing it, girl. Wow.
Yeah, so that I
That's
can. So
awesome.
yeah, Dominique, who has been the host of a couple of prosperity
Mhm.
consciousness clubs, and she's seen me with this in my wallet, and she laughs all the time with it. So I'll read this piece.
Yes,
So this
please.
piece came from a scarcity frame of mind keeps people from experiencing true gratitude, and this comes from the book. And Gary was in a workshop in Auckland, and he had a woman who talked about her fear of lack, and it was deeply entrenched in her relationship with money. She asked Gary, so what is actually lacking here? So she's in this workshop, and she's genuinely saying, so what is actually working here? So I'm sorry, someone's asking me a question in the background. No, I'm okay. They don't realize I'm on a Facebook Live.
Doesn't matter. If they're going to ask a question, they should come in and say hi.
Exactly. They're gone. No, wait. No, they ran out when you said that. No, so okay, so she genuinely says, and this is me, it's like, what's lacking here? Like, what is going on here? And I have to say, for me, that lack of fear, that when money was deeply entrenched. So Gary replies, oh my God, the only thing you lack is you. Everything else is total abundance. You use huge amounts of force to create a lack of you in order to create all the lacks in your life. You have a great ability to lack. The main lack is the unwillingness to be you. Your scarcity state of mind is deeply ingrained. You have to be willing to change it before you will ever be prosperous and successful. Now, that piece, you've got to be willing to change it before you ever become prosperous or successful. That piece has been any time that I've stepped out of prosperity, gratitude, and knowing that I am of success, not success is a definition outside of myself, my business and my money flows have contracted. Every time that I continuously choose to be, hang on a second, my life has got better since I've used these tools. Obviously I'm living in my house. There are massive things. I'm partner in an accountancy practice in the west of Ireland. I mean, that's the universe having a laugh. You know what I mean? I mean, how funny it really, when you look at it, and
you're
that
traveling
piece.
the world, and you work in different companies, and you have clients everywhere. You have a global company. Like, there's so many amazing stuff that you have created in so short time.
Oh my God. And it's like, I'm still running, going, more. So this piece, I would say to anyone, is that to know that prosperity is available to us. I cannot begin to say how grateful I am for you, for Gary, and for the Bowmans, because you know what? Life is not worth living if you're going to be in that scarcity, lack, fear, mean, contracted, clasping, holding, energy. We are such great, wonderful,
Mm.
magnificent beings that will never work for us. Ever,
No.
ever, 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 because it's not your vibration and it is not who you are, you know? And that thing of what would it take for you to see the greatness in you? These are questions. I know that I can speak for you saying this, and you can give your own feedback on this. This shift in, the lie of the lack and stepping into wealth and prosperity and greatness has not been a one choice for me. This has been
No.
a continuous, momentary choice in how I create everything and how I deal with everything and how I move through my life. Do I always get it? No. However, I continue to reach for it.
Yeah. No. Yes. I mean, I know that I was very similar, and I wasn't in a similar situation because I didn't have kids and I didn't have that house, but I
Yeah.
didn't have at all money 9 years ago when I started
Yeah, I
Access,
remember
and
this.
there was no money, and I was even like really checking out, can I buy this? Do I really have? Can I afford the food that I was buying and all that? And the funny part is, yes, there was very little money. That is true, but the drama I created in my head was larger than the maybe the fact that was there, because the drama
No
was
way.
adding on. It adds on, it adds on, it adds. It's like, and I'm
No,
like,
really. The drama in your head is bigger than what's real and true. No.
but nobody knew because I didn't tell anybody, so nobody knew how little money I had and how. Also, sometimes I'm like, fuck, I can't go, I can't choose that, and I'll have to do that. And I remember even people like inviting me for dinner or for lunch, and I was like, I'm so grateful I didn't have to pay for that. Or like, then I can spare my food to the next day. I was so weird in my head. And yes, there was some days where like, fuck, there's not enough money for what I would like to choose or even what I'd like to buy for food. And I was like, this is fucking not okay, Mary. And I got so pissed at
Totally.
myself for not changing it. And from that moment, it started changing. But I also can say money changes are not like, and I when I was very, very spiritual, that's a little bit like 15 years before. Like this was around 9, 10 years, and it's like 13, 14 years before that, or 3, 4 years before that, you would count like that. um I did magically almost always create what I required, like magically, but always in the last minute. And there was
Minute.
so much
Yeah,
drama
yeah.
going on, so much
Yeah,
drama. And I was
me
like,
too.
but I was so holy because I did create it,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
together with the universe and some magical spiritual things. But at some point I was like, okay, if that is possible, why would I not be willing to have money in my bank and say I would like to have that and I'll pay for that? and and
Totally.
and I said, I'm not going to give up until I have that life, because I don't see the point anymore that it's so fucking holy. Sorry, I shouldn't say fuck here. So holy to always make it work in the last minute.
Yeah, yeah.
Why is
Oh,
that? Why is that more sensational than me creating a life where there's money involved?
and why does it even have to be relevant to how you live?
No.
That, exactly. It's like I did that last minute, and I would create it, as you said, in the strangest of places. I always got it. Always, always, always. Was it fun? No, certainly was
No.
not fun. Was it ease, joy, and glory? Absolutely not. Was it kindness, gratitude, peace, and calm? No. So yeah,
No,
yeah,
and
yeah.
everything, like even, I hope that my car wouldn't break down. I was like, I'm buying a more expensive car now, and if it breaks down, well, then I'll pay the repairs. There's not more than
Exactly.
that. And I was like, if I require more money, well, then make more money. One of the things that I think that one of the biggest things I've seen change in my world that I always know I can create. So if I need more money, I'll just create it. I, it's that simple for me, but it's also not linear because I'm not on a salary that will be the same every month. I have a business. Business for me is allowing this world to basically make sure there's money flows from everywhere, and it's a way of receiving it that works for this world.
I
It
love it.
works because
Business
it's
releasing
okay.
money, many ways where you can receive money.
Yeah,
How does it get any
it's
better than
all
that? It's
legal. That's
all
the thing. It's all legal, because it would be weird in this world if somebody just hands you over this or this and this, and it's some of them are legally okay, but I don't have to create problems. But
with it.
the funny part, the business allows me to be totally magical, totally free, and allow all the magic to occur because I don't have to hide, I don't have to protect, I don't have to defend where it came from, nothing of that, and it makes
It's
me.
so funny. I love when you talk about that, because when I actually made my business a corporation, and when I
Mm.
started paying the VAT every month and looking at the costs, how the income of the business expanded within the first month. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, because your space is open up to receive more for sure.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
you're also not against anything. In I don't know if it's Ireland, Sweden, we don't have it. Scandinavia, we don't have it. But in Germany and all those German-speaking countries, they have these small businesses. I don't know if Ireland has that. So basically, you're VAT free to a certain
Yeah,
amount of.
30, 37 and a half if you're 37 and a half if it's a service, and 75 if it's a product. Yeah, 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 yeah,
There you go. In
yeah,
Sweden, it doesn't
yeah.
exist. It doesn't
All right,
exist at
okay.
all.
Yeah.
But and I've
So
been
a lot of
starting.
people would keep their income below
Yeah,
that, so they avoid paying the VAT on everything. Yeah, yeah,
exactly. Because that becomes
yeah,
so valuable that you're not paying VAT. But VAT is always the money from the government. I've never seen that as a problem because I don't count it in as that being my income. It is a part
yeah.
of my expenses in my
Business.
business. But a lot of
Yeah.
it's so funny. So one of my clients said, "Oh no, I changed my business now, even if I'm under the amount, because I'm not going to have that as a limitation." I'm like, good for you. That's the weirdest thing to do in Germany, like super weird. And I was like, does it even are they even allowing you to do that kind of thing? Because it's also I don't know how the systems are built in that way, but I was like, they keep it so valuable, and also especially if you're married, then it's even better taxed for the one that is making more money. It's
But
very
it's all a
interesting.
system. But it's all a system to avoid actually having receiving way more
Yes,
money, creating way. Like, how are you ever
yes.
going to reach the
And
million
also
per year?
controlling people, and also controlling
Yeah,
people to be
massive
dependent on
control.
things. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
massive
was like,
control.
no, never allow yourself to. And also, why would it be a problem paying tax or VAT? Why would that be something you're trying to avoid? In the beginning, when I was doing a little, like not a lot of money, of course, I was trying, like, let's be tax free,
Of
kind of
course.
thing. And my accountant was always so proud that she made me tax free, but it wasn't so hard in my business because I had a lot of expenses, not enough
Yeah,
income.
me too.
But when
Me
it,
too.
when it started shifting, it was so hilarious. When it started shifting a little bit, she still found like, oh, we can do that and that, and then your taxes go down that much. And at the end, I had so little taxes to pay, and I was sitting there, Ramona, this doesn't work. Because if I go to a bank, if I want to loan money, if I want to rent an apartment, they're checking on this, and it looks like I am poor.
Poor. Yeah,
I
that was
make
the
no
very
money.
reason. That was the very reason I changed it, because I was looking at buying a
Yeah,
house, and I was looking at a 2 year walk towards it, and that was the
yeah,
very reason, because as long as there's that little amount coming in, then I
yeah.
actually can't go and get
And
a
that's
new
why I
place,
also
you know.
added an LLC
Yeah,
because I had a one person business. I don't know what to say in English, but and in
yeah,
Sweden you can't show that you have an income, so it's not even, the banks don't even like it. They will
yeah,
accept it, but they don't like it. So a system that is an okay system, the banks are not willing to accept them totally. And I'm like, you guys are fine. You know that the bank said no to my. I asked for a loan because you do a pre-loan. Uh, um,
just charge my phone.
just just to check if your loan is, if you're okay to get a loan. And I was like, I'll do that because every real estate guy wants to know if you've done that pre-approved, basically. And I was like, yeah, I did it a
Oh,
year ago that I'm pre-approved. So they'll tell you how much you're allowed to, so you have kind of a sense of what. So then if you start making a deal for an apartment, you're like credible and not that you have the
yeah.
credentials that you can pay for
Well,
it.
that
So I
they're
think it's a good
and they want to
system.
know that they're not wasting their time as well.
Yes, exactly. So then,
They do,
then I
like.
said, yeah, a year they said to me yes in the bank without really doing. They just looked at my numbers, and my numbers are much better. But so I said, I'll just do it online. It goes quicker. They call me and say I'm not approved. I'm like, what the fuck? And
Oh my
you're
goodness.
kidding me. And I was like, no, your salary is this and this. And I was like, it was like 2/3 of my salary they were telling me I had, or less. No, less. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? No, this is what we counted together. I'm like, I think you should check that again. So they
Check it
send it
out.
off to, they send it out to because I have a business, so that was a private person from the back. So they send it to the business area, and they come back. No, they say the same. And I'm like, okay, if I'm dealing with a bank, you guys have had me as client for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. You tell me this is this. You can check on my fucking bank statement that comes in more money after I pay my taxes than you're telling me that my salary is with taxes. Are you really going to keep this answer? Yes,
Yeah.
this is what they say. And I was like, and I got so furious because they were incompetent of looking at my paper. And then I sent in paper and they still say no. And I was like, you cannot you cannot make a calculation of my, because it doesn't say income this amount when you have your own business. It says a little bit
Business,
different.
yeah, no,
And you have to
yeah.
add the little percentage of I mean, it's stupidity. Like if you have ever looked at a balance sheet from a company like in Sweden, it's easy. And I tell them, if you're really saying this, I think I have to change bank, and you better make an appointment physically for me and make sure this is being handled within this week, or I cancel on you and tell all my clients and all my friends that you're incompetent as a bank.
And
They called me within 2 hours, and I had an appointment in the bank here in Helsingborg. And of course, I was credentialed. My credential was super. And they even looked at two other people checking out my papers. Why have two people said no to me? And I was like, yes, you should. And I'm writing them a paper about this all because they were so fucking incompetent. And this is a bank I'm talking that are the one that were really had
I'm not
credential for
surprised.
looking.
I'm not surprised at all. Yeah, cool. Oh
That
my
was
God.
interesting because never give up when somebody you think an authority knows more than you. Don't give up if you know something or you're aware of something. When it comes to money, they're stupid. People are in general stupid. And my accountant said,
Oh, they are.
Lisen,
Sure.
Lisen, be aware. Banks are not very smart. I'm like, but they work with this. This is a normal thing I'm asking for that they do every day. Yes, Lisen, but just be aware that they can be stupid. And she was so right. And I'm so grateful she said that because I was so pissed
She
at
gave you
them.
the
And
information.
I'm like, this stupid. And she even wrote a letter that I'm sending to the bank, but it basically says in the stupidity. I'm like, oh my
I
God.
love it. She addresses the stupidity. She addressed it. So, I
Prosperity consciousness.
prosperity consciousness. I think we should get this clip and put it up on YouTube. I really
We should
get that
definitely
it's a
do
massive,
that. Definitely do.
yeah,
But here's the
totally.
thing also, this was apart from me looking at deal and deliver, because if I'm asking for a deal with them and they are not delivering what I expect of them, I can go, okay, this doesn't work here.
It worked for me.
Maybe
Yeah.
yeah. Or I'm like, hey, this is the deal that I am allowed to expect here. So deal and deliver gives in every area. And that's why I basically asked if the Bowmans could have this call.
Did you? You were.
Fault. And the funny part, they're like, Lisa, can we have a different call? No, I want to deal and deliver. And I kept on postponing that. Bowman, I said, Steven just said, you guys have no idea. Well, because I'm working with the people every day. There's so little awareness. And for them, it's so natural. So they were like,
so natural. Yeah.
why should we talk about this? We have other things we could talk about. I'm like, because hardly anybody knows. There's so much awareness behind how they're functioning from their living. And I was like, so guys, don't forget, tomorrow evening, 1 hour later than this.
Yeah. I have another Facebook Live at 9 p.m. over.
She has to get ready. So in 25 hours.
In 25 hours.
Go on the two Bowmans. Right, Richard's Facebook page. If you don't know which page it is, it will be on my page and Rachel's page. You can go and just click there.
Of course. Click.
And go on their Facebook Live. And then 2 days later, they have the call. So we just had a long conversation, but there's so much more. And that's where, I mean, we're living proof that it works and that there's so many other possibilities. And we don't have to pretend and we don't have to convince you. We don't have to prove anything, but we do know it works. And that's what we really would like to, hey guys, it does work. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It does work. What a beautiful conversation. Let's get this clip up on YouTube. I get it. It contributes massively. And remember, guys, when it comes to the banks, I have had dealings with the banks where a mortgage was 306,000 reduced to 252 because of the mistake. So imagine if I didn't get someone to take a look at that one. Please check, ring your bank, have conversations, get advice, get information. Do not take their point of views.
And don't give up ever.
No way.
There's always a different possibility if you perceive it is there, or ask somebody that knows more or can contribute to you.
Yeah,
because asking the question gives you more information as well.
Yeah, totally, for sure. Okay. I adore you.
Mwah,
We will see.
mwah,
We'll be here tomorrow
mwah.
night. Mwah,
Yes,
mwah, mwah. Thank you for
we
that call
will.
that day. It changed my life.
Thank you.
We'll be here
Thank
tomorrow
you,
night. Have a
Rachael.
beautiful. Oh my God, we should go for dinner sometime. Have a beautiful Saturday night. I love you. So grateful for you. Mwah.
Adore you. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.